Welcome to Bootcamp, Working with Buyers the Relational Way. This is Equity's mentoring program. And I just wanted to kind of bring you into a way of working with your buyers where it is very relational. Let's just talk about a few things that we're going to discuss today, and kind of an overview of what we're doing. So we're going to talk about turning a lead into a client. We're going to talk about found it, now what? Then we're going to talk about a map to successfully get to closing, your best practices, then some unexpected extras, and finally the last thing is real estate is a team sport. Today we're talking about turning a lead into a client. So thinking about it now, kind of Houston, we have contact. Now that we have a client, we feel like this is a person that we're going to be able to work with, a buyer that we're going to be able to work with. Now, what do we do? Whether it's been given to us by a referral or whether we've found this particular person, what do we want to do? We want to make sure we can answer these questions when we're working with a new buyer. We need to talk to them about their real estate goals. These are the things, the motivations that are really exciting for them in purchasing real estate. And these are going to be the things that you're going to be able to come back to time and time again when you're working with a buyer, because you're going to want to find out what type of goals and motivations they're working with, i.e. are they looking to move into an area for a school district, or are they looking for a fantastic large garage, or they absolutely can't live without that modern kitchen. Those are the types of things that you're going to find out. So we're going to work with them in understanding what their goals are. Next thing we're going to talk to them about is whether they're pre-approved. This is probably one of the most important things to understand when you're working with them, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on how to get to the lender and how to work with that. But pre-approval is very important, and I'm going to tell you the reason it is if you're working with somebody and they say, oh yeah, no problem, I can purchase, we make very, very good money, and it's not an issue, I can buy a $500,000 home. And you take their word for it without actually having a pre-approval from a lender, and you go out and you start showing them some homes in the $500,000 range, and then you get a little bit closer, or maybe even write an offer on one at $500,000, and then you send them over to the lender. The lender looks at it and says, these guys are wonderful, they're all the way approved up to $350,000. Now what? You've shown them $500,000 homes. Now you're gonna have to go back to them and tell them, oh, guess what? Because of your pre-approval is only to $350,000, now we're gonna have to go back and look at $350,000 homes. They don't look the same as $500,000 homes. You've just created an uphill battle for yourself and also for your client. You're really not doing them a good deed, because what happens is if you haven't pre-approved them, you start showing them properties and then they get pre-approved. It's just hard for them to understand that. Sometimes they get embarrassed. The other thing is sometimes they just don't want to move forward after that point. So pre-approval is very important. Who's their lender? Do they need a referral to the lender? We'll talk about that because of the team sport issue in the future. But one of the things to remember is if they've got a lender, then you're going to want to make sure that you have a conversation with that lender already, so you know kind of where they are in the process, which is going to help you when you're writing your offer. Who's the decision makers? These are the people that can actually make the decision on what's going on with their particular business. Who are the people that can purchase the property? Who are the ones that are going to be purchasing, and who are the decision makers? Is there a husband and wife team? They probably both should be on looking at the property. Sometimes they're moving in from out of town, and so you may only be able to work with one, but one of the things you want to do is you want to find out who the decision makers are. Now there's a difference between a decision maker and an influencer. An influencer may be a father or an uncle or somebody that they know, an attorney that's been a friend of theirs for years, that they may know that might be an influencer, meaning once you go show them everything and you go to get under contract and they call and talk to dad and dad says, wow, that's awesome that you're looking to buy a house and it's $350,000. But when I was buying 25 years ago, those houses were $125,000. So I think you're overpaying. So you can understand why influencers are very important to get them on your page in the beginning, because you know the market, you know what's going on in the industry. It's very important for you to know who those people are. So do you need to bring them into the fold in the beginning? Not so much that they're going to be the decision maker, but they may be the influencer. Involving them in the very early parts of the stage is very helpful, because now they're on your side when you start talking to them about purchasing a property and writing an offer. Influencers are very important to understand, if there are any. And so it's just good to ask your client about those. And are they currently working with any other agents? This is very important, not only just for our code of ethics, because if they're working with somebody else and they've signed a contract, we need to find that out initially, so that we don't, one, waste our time, but two, get in the way of the other agent that's maybe spent their time out there doing that. Sometimes buyers don't understand our industry, and they think having multiple agents looking for property for them is going to be the most effective way for them to do that, but that's not the case. The case is you want to have one person working with them. You need to have that question asked and answered early on in the conversation. And if they if they are working with somebody, have they signed a buyer broker with them? Are they continue working with them, or did they just talk to them and see one? Because what we're going to bring to the table is, if they maybe haven't signed a buyer agency, we're going to bring to the table, working relationally with them, how important it is. And they may have met with an agent, but they haven't picked one, and they will pick you based on what we're learning here today. Let's get started. So one of the things that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to send your client an email. And you may have had a conversation with them just on the phone. Maybe you met with them in person, or you ran into them at an open house, and you're getting ready to now bring them into the fold of being your buyer. You're going to send them an email. And that email is going to be available to the mentees and the mentors on Elevate, so that you can download that and have that email sample for you to send out to them. Once you determine what you're going to do, you're going to want to determine the follow-up plan. So you're going to send them an email, and then you're going to determine, when do we speak next? What's going to be the next move for us? So once we've sent that, then we schedule a buyer consult meeting with them. Okay, so we're going to send the email, schedule a time. So what you're going to do in the meantime is you're going to add them to your database. You're going to invite them to connect on your MLS, so that you can send them hot sheets or new listings that come on the market as they come on the market, based on how they're answering that information in the email. So that's going to be very important to you. You're going to send them a personal note thanking them for picking you as their agent to help them find their new property for their family. This is very important, because now we're talking about building the relational way, and this is a great way for you to show them how much you care about them. So you're going to send them a personal note, and you're going to send a personal note to the person that referred you. So if you ever received a referral from their cousin or one of your past clients, you're going to send them a note. This is also very important, because when you're working by referral, you want to teach people that you are listening to them. When they send you people, you want to show them that you are, you can say, I met with the Joneses. They're incredible people. Thank you so much for the referral. Sometimes I'll put not only a personal note, maybe I might put like a Starbucks $10 card in there, or just something to say, hey, thanks a bunch. But again, let them know that you did receive the referral from them. Okay? And then what are they going to do in the meantime? So if they haven't contacted the lender, make sure that they do contact a lender, and ask them if you could give them permission to send their information to your lender, the one that works by referral, kind of our team sport person, so that they have, even if they've working with another lender, tell them, it's not a bad idea to get a couple examples, so you can kind of compare and see what's going to be the very best for you. But just ask the permission, so that you can then get a hold of your lender and have them get the information to them. And then they're going to answer the questionnaires on the email. So those are kind of the two things that are going to happen. So you're going to send them an email, then you're going to talk about when you're going to meet next, then you're going to have them fill out that information. You're going to do the things we talked about, and then you're going to have your buyer consult with them. So those are the kind of things to get you started. So working with a loan officer. One of the things you want to really work with your loan officers or with them is, do you really have a buyer? Are they pre-approved? And we talked about some of the reasons why that is very important. We're going to talk about the difference between a pre-qualified person and a pre-approved person. Now, a pre-qualified person might be on a Saturday or a Sunday when they've called a lender or you've sent them to a lender and the lender's talked to them and they've told them, hey, we make this much money, this is what we have in debt, this is kind of where we are, and can you give us some type of a pre-qualification? In that pre-qualification, that's kind of basically it. They're just getting the numbers, but they don't really have everything nailed down yet. The pre-approval means what they do is that's when they will then pull a credit report for them. They'll also verify their income. So they're going to be doing a verification of income with their employers. They're going to make sure that the credit report comes back. They're going to verify their debts. And they're going to really dive in and say, okay, this person is really approved to purchase a property. Very important for you to understand, because if it's on the weekend and they had a lender, and maybe you've been out, you met them at an open house, you can go look at another house with them, or you're talking about that particular open house, you want to be able to call their lender and say, hey, where are they? Are they pre-qualified or pre-approved? Have you called and verified their income? Have you pulled a credit report? Where are we? Because that will make it stronger for you when you're getting ready to write an offer. So very important for you to do that. So sometimes they can do an online application with your lender. Sometimes they're going to do a face-to-face application. Sometimes they'll just do it over the phone. But those are some simple things that they're able to do. And as long as you have the right team in place for you with your lenders, you're going to know when their lender comes back to you and says, yes, they are pre-approved, they can purchase a property. That's what you want, because that's when you're going to start taking them out to see properties. And regardless of the method of communication, just make sure that before you put them in your car or take them to properties, that they're pre-qualified and you feel pretty good about it with the lender, that they just have to verify the stuff, or they're pre-approved, because you don't want to, again, go back to what I was talking about earlier in the thing, where you're showing them properties that they can't afford, or it even go the other way around, right? You're showing them $350,000 properties and they can afford $500,000. And they have the ability to do that. They just haven't been shown that from a lender. So it's very important for you to have that there. Okay, so congratulations. Now you have a qualified buyer, somebody that's been pre-approved to purchase a home. So let's talk about the buyer consultation. Now remember, only once they've been approved do you schedule the buyer consultation. You're busy, they're busy. Let's not waste anybody's time or waste your time. A really good thing to do is to bring them to the office. The reason you want to bring them to the office is, one, just to make sure, and it doesn't have to be an office, just bring them to someplace, not a home, but someplace where you can sit down and have a conversation with them about what they're looking to do and what's going to happen with them in this purchase when they're purchasing a home. You're going to want to know who the actual decision makers are. These are the people that are going to be signing on the contract, that are going to be on the loan. Those are the decision makers. And then you're going to want to know who the influencers are. And we kind of talked about that a little bit earlier, but it's important for you to, if you need to bring them in, you're going to find this out in your buyer consult, so that you make sure that maybe even when you're showing houses, maybe the first time you go out showing houses, dad might come along, or that influencer might come along. But once they see that you're professional and going to take care of them, they'll probably kind of fade into the background, but they can be a real ally to you too if you run into a situation where you got people that are maybe a little bit on the fence of what they're doing. Get to know them. Have they been through this process before? This is a very important process for them. Probably the biggest decision they're ever going to make in their life. They're going to purchase something here larger than anything that they've ever done. So do they have any concerns? Do they have any fears? Let's talk about those things and let's answer those fears for them. Let's answer those concerns for them. So again, once we get out there, they know that we're doing this. Now understand, us doing this is probably 95 to 99% of the top agents do this. What are they looking for? What's important to them? Remember, those go back to the motivations of what it is that they're doing. Once they've done that, we can talk about how they're going to search for homes. Now, they can search for homes through your website, which is then connected to the MLS, and that's what I suggest that you do. So now that they're searching for homes, you'll know that they're doing that, because it's going to be on your website in the back end on that you get through your Elevate program. So it's able for you to see exactly what homes they're looking for. So that's important to know. And then how likely will they be the ones to look at those particular homes? What I like to do is pull a list. So I take what they're looking for. And I don't try to get it too narrow, but I want to make sure I get those motivating factors in there because I want to make sure they know I'm listening to them. But they may say that they want something in a school district, but if I pull property and they are looking at it and it doesn't meet their standards, at least they know, okay, well, we kind of did a wide variety. And what you're going to do is you also want to get maybe 20 to 25 homes that they can look at in that area, in those motivations, in what they're looking for. And then what you're going to ask them to do is drive by those properties. Now, in the modern world and technology we have Google Earth, so if they want to do that, that's okay too. They can just go on and take a look at properties that way. Or I kind of like them to drive the area because technology is great, but it doesn't give you the feel for the area. So I have them drive the area, drive by the houses, don't go knock on the doors, don't do anything, just drive by. If it's one that they really want to see, let's get them to a short list. And then with that short list, now we can take them out and look at maybe 5 or 6 properties that they've taken from the 25 and now taken it down to 5 or 6 properties that you're going to go out and look at. And then that's when you're in this particular meeting, that's when you're going to have them sign that buyer broker and go over it in depth, what you're going to do to help them buy the property and how you're there to serve them to help them purchase that. I always say, some people get worried that the real estate agent is going to be really influential. We're going to be helpful. What we're trying to be is the guideline to that. So you mentees and mentors understand in this situation, what you're trying to do is to kind of break down those barriers. So one of the things I always say to buyers, there's 2 things for sure that are going to happen. One is, I'm not going to live with you. And 2 is, I'm not going to help you make the payment. So because of those 2 things, you get to pick the house. My job to you is to listen to what it is you're looking for when we're walking through houses. And then if we don't find it that particular time, I'm going to go out and search for the things that you're looking for, because that's very important for me to make sure in working by referral that I'm listening to your needs and answering those needs. Because when I say that, the same thing about I'm not going to live with you and I'm not going to help you make the payment, it also takes you out of that equation in that sometimes agents want to make the decision for their clients, and that's not the case. Let your clients make the decision. You're going to find them the perfect home, and they're going to refer all their friends to you based on that. Let's talk a little bit about, of course, obviously we want to listen to them, but we want to talk who's in charge, all right? So as an agent, what we want to do is we want to be able to tell them to show them exactly how we work. And that's important to you because when we meet at the office, that starts that, right? When we meet for coffee, that starts that. And then from there, then we can tell them exactly how we work. Because imagine this, if we don't explain to them the way that the real estate world works, if we don't explain to them that we need to call and set appointments and work through these things, you're going to get the phone call that, I want you to picture this. It's Friday, it's 6 o'clock, you're out with your significant other. You've just decided you're gonna go see a movie, maybe you're at the restaurant eating and then you're gonna go see a movie. You get a call from a new buyer and the new buyer says to you, hey, guess what? I just saw the house that answers all of our questions. It just popped up and I happen to be in the area and I'd love to see this house in the next 30 minutes. Now, if you haven't explained to them how this all works and how you need to set appointments and go through houses that way, then you're probably gonna wanna jump and say, well, let's go do it, and tell your spouse, okay, look, we can go to a movie or we can go to dinner anytime, but we got a buyer here, we gotta go get them. But that's not the case. When you explain to your client that, listen, we need to make sure that we set an appointment and we put this in the right perspective for you and for the sellers. Explain to them the sellers. What if the sellers just barely did that? It's hard to get it set up in 30 minutes, but not only is it hard, it's just unprofessional to do it that way. So just explain to them, if they call you and say that, say, I'm so excited that we can do that. Let me get the information on that particular property, and then let me do this. Let's schedule a time tomorrow. Now I'm showing properties with another buyer in the morning, but maybe around 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, we can go see this. Now what we're doing is we're showing we're in charge of how we're gonna look at properties. Remember, we're the professionals at this, and they honestly, with all of the technology and everything that's going on out there, it's good to explain to the buyer that they're probably the one that's going to find the house, because they're going to be searching at midnight. You know, while they're sitting in bed on their iPad, they're going to be searching and looking at properties. And so there's a good chance that they're going to find the particular property. So we want to show them that once we find it, then let's do our research to make sure it is available and to make sure everybody's on board, and then we can go take a look at it. That's how you kind of get past that, hey, I want to go see a property in the next, 30 minutes. So now you've found it, you've gone out, you've narrowed it down to the 5 properties, you've gone out there, you've looked at the property, and you've found the one that they want. Now what do? What we want to do is we want to find out whether the person that we're working with on the other side, do we know them? Have we worked with them before? Are they a friend or a foe? It's kind of hard to tell that, but you'll kind of have a conversation with them about maybe you're going to have an offer coming in, and you kind of want to know a few things about that to see if that agent on the other side is friendly or how they're reacting to that. You want to try and do this in a very pleasant way. So when you've written a contract, after you've written that contract, I think it's really important for you to send a personal note to that other side. Let's get to a win-win on everything. Now, the note may not get to them before you've negotiated the whole contract, but remember, we are going to go through inspections, we're going to go through appraisals. There's a whole bunch of negotiation that goes on once we get it under contract. But let's just find out what we can do, and then let's just talk about a win-win situation with this. And this is where I really like to start talking with my buyer about, listen, we're going to do things to protect your earnest money. We're going to do an inspection. We're going to do an appraisal. We're going to make sure that this is the right house for you. But we want to make sure in this situation that everybody here is going to have the opportunity to win, the sellers, the buyers, everybody. Respect to the other side really goes a long way. So that's one thing to remember. If it's multiple offers, talk to them about what that means. Sometimes in this market that we're in right now, the market we're in while we're shooting this video, is a market of multiple offers almost around the country. Make sure that your client understands that price is very important in multiple offers, that it's not like a slower market where you can, lowball them and then try and come up. It's a market of let's be fair so everybody wins, but let's also make sure we're not overpaying, and that let's make sure that we're not leaving anything on the table. Earnest money, is that important to have? How much earnest money? I believe in a market like we're in right now, the larger the earnest money, the better. Remember, they're going to be putting money down on the houses, and that earnest money can be put towards their down payment. So just explain to them that, listen, if we put a larger earnest money down, that makes our contract look much better than if we're putting $1,000 in earnest money. So I typically say 1% of the purchase price. So if it's a $500,000 house, you're putting down $5,000. If it's a $350,000, $3,500. That makes it a little bit stronger. And then just explain to your client, because we're there to represent them, that you're going to make sure you're protecting their earnest money in case any issues come up. We'll be able to get that earnest money back. If the inspections don't work or if the appraisal doesn't come back right, we can cancel the contract at that point and still get that earnest money back and go find another property. Deadlines. What are the sellers looking for? That's almost as important as price and everything else, because sometimes in a market like this, when we think multiple offers, the first thing that happens is a buyer comes in and says, well, look, we'll pay cash and we'll close in 3 days. Well, sometimes that scares the seller, right? Because maybe the seller's got some things going on. So I like to talk to the other side and say, what would be the optimal timing for your seller with us writing this offer? And they may say, well, they're moving out of state. They can't be there till September, and this is July. So now you've got some time, you can write that in. Or they might say they're moving and they need to be this other place in August, and this is July and we need it to be done now. So that might be when you write an offer that's a much quicker turnaround. So it depends upon that seller in writing in multiple offers, what's the best way? Because I've seen time and time again where the offer that wins is the offer that's the best offer, and that doesn't always necessarily mean price. It also means what's the best in it for them. Then once you've written this offer and you've got it ready to go, it's nice to maybe have a personal letter or cover that you send out from the buyer saying how much they really love this house, how they could see their family growing up there, all of that. And again, there's going to be some examples for that for you on the downloads for the mentees and the mentors, so you can kind of see some different examples of how that works in writing those letters. Nothing tricky. It's just, remember, we're talking about relational here. People are very relational about their house that they raised their family in. And so they want to know the people that are buying it love that house as much as they do. We're going to talk about a little bit about repairs when we're writing the offer here, of when we're going to do our inspections and about the repairs. I like to mention to the clients, look, we're looking for the big stuff. We're looking for foundation issues. We're looking for heating and air or electrical issues. We're looking at the roof. We're not looking for little issues like a cracked plate on an electrical plug or a drippy faucet, things like that, unless it's causing any type of damage. You know, those are things that you're not buying a new house normally, you're buying one that's been lived in. And so just let them know. It's important for you to understand that you're listening to what freaks them out and what would scare them about purchasing a property, and you're going to address those things, but also let them know, look, you know, we're gonna negotiate the things that need to be negotiated, so you're getting into a house and you're not going to have to spend a lot of money once you get in there. And you know, fixing a plate on that's cracked on a plug is 69 cents at Home Depot. So just make sure that you kind of explain that to them. It's going to go a long way in your negotiating on both sides when you do that. And then what I like to do with your negotiations is start with an email to the other side. Say, these are the items that came from the inspection, and these are the things that we're thinking that we would like to address. And can you tell me what your seller thinks about this? And then maybe we can start our negotiations there. And then from there, we can take and then pull it back to a repairs addendum once we get to the end. Lenders don't like to see a lot pages of repairs. They would rather see a small number of repairs that have been negotiated and taken care of, so that they know when they're making the loan on this, everything's been done. Let's talk about what's going to get us to the finish line and make it the right expectations for your buyer. Because remember, you've done this maybe many, many times, or this might even be your first time, but still understand you went through schooling. You've done a lot more than they've ever done. So if you're a new mentee, that's okay. You still know more than what that buyer does. So let's talk about the expectations and how to educate them on the process of going through that. Once they've made their application, we talked about that. Their application's done, they're in for pre-approval, we've done the house hunting. Now we're gonna move along to making the offer, which we've done, and the seller accepts. Now let's talk about what's happened. So now we're going to talk about how the lender is going to want to lock their rate, especially in the market where rates are going up and down and moving around a little bit. They're going to want to lock their rate. Their lender's going to know that, and it's going to be important for you to understand that locking their rate is for the benefit of the buyer. So that lender may want to lock their rate. So they may have a conversation with you about, where are we? Did we get the inspections all done? Everything's good there. Can I lock their rate? Make sure we move forward. Once we lock their rate, then the next thing that they're going to do is an appraisal. Now, listen to what I just said there. Inspection's been done, everything's been negotiated. Because the buyer's gonna pay for that inspection, and they're also gonna pay for the appraisal, it's always good to get the inspection done first and negotiated before the lender orders the appraisal. Because what happens if they order the appraisal and it's $500, $700, depending on the area that you're in, and then you do the inspection and we don't like the house. Now, your buyer's bought an appraisal on something they're not even going to buy. So inspections first, then appraisals next. Once they've done the appraisal and you've gotten the property is ready to go, you've passed all your deadlines, now they're going to go in for a conditional approval, which really, if you think about a conditional approval, that would be, hey, we need to get the last pay stub from you. We've been doing this now for a month, and I need to get your last 2 weeks pay stub. It's just maybe some things to just get the final conditional things that need to be done on this, and then once they have that, then they're going to move ahead to the final approval. Final approval is when they have the paperwork that now they can send to the title company or attorney, depending on where you are in the country, and that you're going to do your settlement. This is where you're going to go in and do your document signing. Here's one of the things to remember about settlement. Settlement is when they sign for the property, and closing and funding is when the money comes in and it moves them into their name with the recording. That normally doesn't happen at the same day. Normally they settle in one day, all the documents are gathered, then they send them to the lender, lender makes sure everything is okay and all the documents are signed correctly, and then they'll fund it and they'll go pay off the seller and they will record it into your name. Now, here's an important thing that will help you, especially you new mentees in this particular program, and that is if you schedule your settlement on Friday, your clients will not be able to get the house until Monday or Tuesday when it records. Remember, this is their first time. So they may think, I'm gonna go to settlement and sign everything and where's the keys to the house? And you're not gonna be able to give it to them. And if you didn't explain that in the beginning, what's gonna happen? They're gonna be mad at you because they planned on moving in this weekend because they're signing on Friday. So just understand, when you do your settlements, I like to do them on Tuesdays or Wednesdays. That way, you got Thursday, Friday to make sure that it funds and records and you've got everything taken care of for your client so that they can move in on the weekend. Sometimes you have to negotiate a split weekend. The sellers needs until 5 o'clock on Saturday to move out, and then your buyers can move in on Sunday. So that's one of the things you want to make sure that you do. And your mentor is going to be able to help walk you through the best way to do that so that you end up not getting your buyer upset, because remember, we want them to refer a lot of people to you, so you want to show them how big of a professional you are at this. Let's just talk about some best practices. So we found them a house, we've written a contract, they've gone to settlement, it's funded and recorded. So let's talk about some best practices along the way to make sure that during this period of time, you're going to be able to say to them, look, I'm going to serve you so well that during this time, because you're so in tune with real estate, you're gonna hear of maybe 1 or 2 people that are in this same process or it's coming up, and you're gonna be able to refer them to me. And the reason that you're gonna be able to refer them to me is because you can see how much work I'm putting into this for you. At a very minimum, you wanna have a weekly follow-up with this person. From the very beginning of this, you want to make sure you set those expectations. Now, maybe if they're really wanting to find a house quickly and you haven't found one and they're looking every day, you may have to have a daily communication with them. And the daily communication could just be, I was online, I looked, we didn't send anything to you because nothing came up that met your parameters, and so there's nothing today. That could just be your communication, but at least a weekly follow-up stating even the same thing. If it's in a market where they're very specific, it might be, we've been looking and I haven't found anything, but we're still looking. I just want you to know that I'm still there. This also is very important to remember that you do this during the under contract all the way to closing. Once you go under contract, I don't want you to just forget about them and go find somebody else. You're under contract, you're gonna serve them. So make sure that you are working with them and weekly follow-up with them exactly where we're at, okay? Don't assume that they remember anything. This is very important. You're giving them a lot of information. I'm giving you a lot of information here today. You might want to go back and watch this 2 or 3 times just to pull out more information each time. But one of the things that you want to remember is don't assume that they're going to remember anything. Again, we do this all the time. They don't. So assume they don't remember anything. It's our job to make sure we keep track of the deadlines. Remember when I talked about protecting their earnest money? We want to make sure that when we're doing this, we're protecting their earnest money. So we know when those deadlines are and what we have to have done before those deadlines, the inspection, the appraisal, to make sure that we're not putting their earnest money at risk. And I don't want you, even if they have said to you, everything looks fine, and we're good to go, and that was on Tuesday, and their deadline is on Friday, you'll want to call them on Thursday and say, listen, I know we negotiate everything. I just want to make sure Friday's our deadline for our inspections. Is there anything else we need to address? If not, we'll move past that and go to the appraisal deadline. And you'll do the same thing with the appraisal. This way, again, shows your value and how much effort you're putting out there to help these people with purchasing this large investment that they're going through. Selecting a lending partner for you. Set your expectations up front. How do you want them communicating with your client and their client? This is very important because you don't want your lender only talking to him once and then talking to him at settlement. That you want them to be able to do the same thing with them so that they feel comfortable all the way through. You don't want you to show up to closing and have the lender show up and these people go, geez, we haven't even talked to you in 2 months. You know, really, thanks for getting this done, but we were concerned about a bunch of things. Their communication style, their frequency, what is their experience and how do they work? Do they work relationally? It's very important for you to find a lender that does that because that will help you in growing your business as it goes. What products do they have? The loan products that they have. Are they a member of your particular board? Sometimes lenders can join as an affiliate to your board. That's important too because there's a code of ethics that goes along that you're going to want your lender following the same as you follow. Typical time frames. Is this lender able to do some co-marketing with you? Because it's great to be able to co-market and push, out to maybe some of their people too, and to future clients exactly what it is that you're looking for. And can they do some co-marketing with you? And incoming stuff, how do they want to handle any of that? Those leads that you're sending them, how are they going to handle those when they come in? And how they're going to communicate that back to you. Now, some of the unexpected extras that you're going to do. We talked about, you're going to write personal notes. Very important personal note. Anytime something important happens, like writing a contract, write them a personal note. Thank you for trusting me. I'm so excited that we found your house. We're going to work very hard at getting this done. Another thing too is maybe a pop by, and you can use these pop bys where you can stop by and maybe even see this person at work. And maybe it's after they've written the contract and you bring them like a stress relieving, some bath salts or a massage or something that this is going to like, hey, we know it's stressful or identifying it is stressful. Here's some stuff to help calm you down on what's going on here because I'm here for you. But when you drop that stuff by their office and there's 5 people around them and after you leave, the communication is going to go on with them was, who was that? And why did they give you a stress thing? And they're going to say, we're buying a house. Now you've brought all these other 5 into the loop of, well, we bought a house last year and my agent never did anything. In fact, we found the house, right? We'll hear that forever. Just make sure your buyer knows that you're still there for them during the process. Then when you get to the end, a closing gift. One of the nice things about a closing gift that I think is important is to listen to your buyer about what's important to them. And as they're doing that, make some notes and some different things like that. Then you can kind of specialize that closing gift. They like to cook. Now maybe you go to the cooking store and buy some spatulas or a nice knife set or something like that. Doesn't have to be a lot of money, but it has to show them that you listen to them. Because remember, if you listen to them and show them how much you care, they will care that much about you. After they've purchased this house, they're going to tell everybody how good a job you did for them. Finally, let's just talk about, I know we've gone really fast here, but let's just kind of talk about real estate as a team sport. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we've got the right lenders that are communicating the way we would like our clients to be communicated to, that they document everything, that they're quick to answer the buyer's questions on their loans and what's going on there, and they support each other. So it's very important that you support them and they support you, but you want to know how they're communicating back with your clients so you don't get that frustrating call on a Saturday morning and we haven't heard from this lender and we're confused or we don't know what's going on here. Title company. Again, these are going to be advocates of you. So when you go into closing, you want your title agent to say to them, boy, you picked the best real estate agent in the world. I've been working with them for years. Their clients love them. They take care of them. I'm so happy that you were able to get there. Those are the kind of things that you want to have with them. You want to make sure that they're doing all of the right things and documenting everything and doing it correct. And so you're going to want to interview some different people. That's nice, right? Because as a new mentee and you're learning this business, what a great way if you can go in and start interviewing some title people, because these title people are going to look at you and go, wow, these guys are on it. They don't even have a buyer yet, but they're interviewing me on how I work with my clients. That's so important for you to be able to know that, because it's a team sport and have the right people on board. Let's also talk about inspectors. So it's always good with inspectors to give them at least 3 choices there. And you can refer them 3. They may have their own inspector that they want to use. I would highly suggest they use a professional inspector. Sometimes you'll have a buyer that says, my dad's a builder, he'll come take a look at it. But they're not going to look at it the same way an inspector is. Really say to them, look, it's very important for you to get a home inspection, a professional home inspection on this. And there's plenty of people. It's not very expensive. If you're buying a $500,000 house, it's worth it to spend $300 to $400 to $500 to make sure that's the right house. But you'll do that and make sure it's a good one. So give them some choices, let them pick. That's very important for you to let them pick, so that if anything was to go haywire, this is real estate, this is a crazy world that way. Something goes haywire, they come back and try and, well, you gave me that inspector, that was the problem. So give them some choices, let them make that choice on what they want to do. Once they do that, tell them what their cost is on it and their schedule for, when you're interviewing your inspectors, ask them what their schedule is, because it's a team sport. We want to know, hey, do you meet your deadlines? When people say that we want to have an inspection, can you do a quick one? Are you okay with all of that? A home warranty company, again, that is very important. If they get a home warranty on this property, it's definitely worth it. Most of the time you can negotiate that in with the offer that the seller's going to pay that, because I even tell all my sellers, you're going to want to put a home warranty on this, because you don't want the water heater going out 3 days after the new buyers moved in. They're calling you saying you lied about the water heater. You want to just have that home warranty for peace of mind, and they're going to want to have it for peace of mind as well. A lot of them have been renting, right, for their whole life. So now they're owners. Well, when they were renting, the landlord fixed the water heater. Now that they're owners, they fix the water heaters. I kind of say this is your way to ease in. So even if the seller doesn't want to pay for it, I try and tell the buyer, why don't you pay for it? It's typically $400 to $500, but it's that peace of mind that if the furnace goes out on New Year's Eve or Christmas Eve, you've got the warranty who has lots of people that can come fix that and get it done, where you're going to be trying to call and do things quickly. And so it's just much better to have that there for them, for the warranty company. In closing, I just want to leave you with this. It's very important to work by referral. It's very important to have your mentor working with you to show you exactly how you do it. So we kind of went quickly through this process on how to do this, so you can watch this video over and over again. But the main thing is, by working with your mentor and your new mentees, you're able to pull from that experience of what they know about the industry and really shorten that time frame of you learning how to do that. And remember, if done right, one buyer can turn to 3 buyers very fast, because they'll refer 1 or 2 buyers to you during that time. So anyway, I just wanted to close with that, let you know how happy we are that you're in this program, and how happy we are that you're with Equity, and that we just want to continue to help with your success. So until we meet again, I'll see you later. Bye-bye.